What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of the Toma Todito Boxing Show. I got none other than the legendary Hall of Famer, six-time world champion, Mr. Michael Carbajal. Thank you so much for opening the doors to this world-renowned 9th Street gym and for having us, for welcoming us here today. Thank you so much, champ.
You're welcome. Anytime, anytime.
So you just got done training a young fighter just a few minutes ago. How do you feel? How do you still find this energy to continue training and staying active? I've seen your clips. You're running on the treadmill and hitting the bag and the speed bag and so forth. Where does all this energy come from? You got so much energy to burn.
It's the love of boxing. It's the love of boxing. I love it. And I've been doing it most of my life. I mean, totally most of my life. So I can't stop.
Have you taken any long breaks for certain times of period, or do you always find your way back in staying active?
I think the longest break I took was about a month.
Wow.
That's the longest break I took.
And then back to it.
I said, I'll never stop again because it was hard. It was hard to start over again.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see that. You have so many young fighters that come through here, that train here. You have older fighters also that come just to stay active. It's basically open to anybody and everybody. What about young aspiring boxers? Do they also come here? Do you have anybody that has actually gone on to do good things that has come out of the 9th Street gym?
Oh, not yet. Everybody here is all beginning. They're all beginning. All the amateurs, they're all beginning.
It has to be a point of pride for you, right? Because you're showing them the right way.
Yeah.
The foundation, they get it directly from you.
That's where it comes from. It's the foundation, as you say it. And hopefully someone comes out from here being world champions.
Do you have that itch of coaching someone and leading them through their career all the way to the top? Being in their corner?
Oh, yeah. That's what I want to do. I mean, who knows if it's ever going to happen, but that's certainly what I want to do.
That's your goal? You still have that? That's something that you want to check off?
That's what I want to do.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait for that. How much traffic comes through here as far as young fighters on the daily? Because we just finished with a few boxers here. We got a little break here in between. How many fighters altogether? How big is the stable of the 9th Street gym?
It all depends. You know, some of the guys are real dedicated, but on Saturdays, you know, they all want to take a break. So during the week, it's really like about 30 fighters.
Wow, they come in and out
coming in and out. Some of them quit. Some of them come back, quit, come back, and quit. They don't have any dedication. I mean, that's what I tell them. You need dedication, determination, desire to become a world champion, and that's how you make it.
What do you think is the driving factor behind the fighters that you see that quit, that stop? Is it mental or is it physical? Do they end up finding out that they don't have the physical abilities, or is it always mental, the common factor that checks people out?
Most of it's mental, and a lot of it is physical. They don't like the hard work. So once they come in, oh, I want to be a world champion. I want to do this. I want to do that. I said, okay, just come to the gym. And once they hit that workout, or once they spar one time, that's it. Them ones don't come back. They don't come back because they think it's real easy. They see all the TV. They see the money, and they want to be famous. And
the glitz, the glamour, the cars, the clothes.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
And once they find out how hard it is, they don't never come back.
Yeah.
So it makes me laugh all the time.
They're like, you mean I got to get punched in the face? That's so interesting. Hey, how do you envision this journey of yours? Because that's gonna be on the bucket list, like you mentioned, to train somebody and guide his career all the way through. How do you envision that happening from a young fighter, or you feel like it's somebody that's gonna be already midway through their career that are just going to step in here and be like, hey, guide me.
It can be any way, you know, any way. If there's a guy that's midway through his career, I'll take over.
Have you had anybody jump in and just switch camps, come over here to you at any point?
Amateur fighters always, you know, they switch all the time. So I get used to that. But it's going to take a while, you know, with all these kids nowadays, they don't understand how hard it is to work, and that dedication is the first thing.
It's a different generation too.
Yeah.
Multiple different generations that you have gone through. So back when your career was getting underway, I recall you mentioning and speaking very highly of Paul Gonzalez, and how you used to, obviously he was the, for those that don't know, he was the first, if my history is correct, the first Mexican American to win Olympic gold.
Yes.
And I recall you speaking very highly of him in the sense of, I got to take the torch now, because his career, a lot of expectations, it didn't pan out to play out how everybody envisioned it, right? And you took the torch, and during the amateurs, you skyrocketed from local tournaments, regional tournaments, national tournaments, Pan Am Games, all the way to the Olympics. All the way to the Olympics. Was that just satisfying enough for you being at the Olympics? Or was that itch still of like, now I got to top this, I got to get that gold as well?
Yeah, it was always, once I qualified to make the Olympics, it was just like, the gold medal that's it, that's my determination. And I made it to it, but I didn't get it. But that silver was, I was just glad that I represented the United States.
And that's the reason I bring this question up, because I recall how calm you were. I remember you throw your hands up, you're like, they rendered a decision, you throw your hands up, you're like, oh, well, I didn't get it, but you were so calm, just so satisfied of being there in the moment.
Right.
But meanwhile, internally, you were like, game on, I'm getting, you did, you put yourself in that position.
Yeah, I did, and I was very proud of it. And that's why I was so calm. But I'm always calm. I'm always calm.
That is true.
Even when I'm fighting, I'm calm, and that's what made me a great champion.
Where does that come from? Where does that stability, that calmness come from? Because you were always, I mean, I could only imagine when you're in the back, you're hearing the crowd, you're about to walk out, it has to build you up with emotion and adrenaline and so forth. But you were always so zeroed in, so focused, almost like you tuned out the noise when you stepped into the ring. How did you manage to control that? Where does that come from?
My dad, probably, he taught me since I was a young kid. He said, you got to be calm. Ever since and I really didn't understand it, at the time. I was saying, if I fight, how am I going to be calm?
Yeah.
But it came about, and that's the way I just remember him saying that. And once I stood calm, I was a way better fighter. I was way better.
There was one fight where you were angry in, where you fought with anger, and that was in your pros. And so I want to touch on that one as well, because I want to know how you controlled your level of calmness in that fight, even though you wanted to destroy this guy, and that was Robinson Cuesta, because he had completely just run his mouth in the lead up to the fight and so forth. And to your admission, you were like, I wanted to destroy this guy. I was really angry because he said so much. And he was undefeated at that time, Panamanian fighter. How did you manage to ride that line of staying calm and yet delivering the message?
Well, that's because when he was talking all his shit, I was even calm there, but I knew, I said, watch, I'm gonna destroy this guy. I'm gonna punish him just for saying all the stuff he did. And what he did to my mother, put his thumbs down to my mother, and I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, wait till I get in the ring. And I was calm. I was calm when I stepped in there. It's the love of it. I loved it, and that's how I stood calm.
One of the reasons why I asked that is because it's one of the key lessons in boxing, right? Not to fight angry.
Right.
But then people cross the line, and then they amp you up, and you're like, and you still walked out very zeroed in, just calm, took the fight to him, and slowly started. Meanwhile, inside, what was going through your head? You're like, I'm landing this next punch, or what? Did you have that fire burning inside, and meanwhile you're learning how to suppress it? Or once you're in there, you're just game on?
Once I'm in there, game's on. I'm calm. I know that. I mean, you fight a whole lot better than when you're calm than when you're mad. You know, everybody thinks, oh, get mad. You got to get mad to do this and do that. But you don't. I mean, you got to use all your skill in a calm way.
You internalized it. You stayed so calm during the lead up, in the back, the walkout, the introduction. Everything was just zen-like.
Yeah.
And then the fight comes in, game
That's
over.
it.
He swung and missed, right? That was the ending to the fight. Took that wild swing and just timbered over.
You just take over. You got to take over.
That was so satisfying. Going back to the Olympics, what was the team mindset like going into the Olympics? Because a lot of stuff happened in the Olympics. And I recall from Anthony Hembrick rushing last minute to get to their fight, and because of the miscalculation or misunderstanding of the times. And meanwhile, the ref is in the ring with the Korean fighter.
Yeah.
And so you had a lot of where they forfeit, right? To finish that line, they end up forfeiting, issuing the forfeit to Anthony Hembrick and raising the hand while they're thinking they're going to still have a chance to fight. They raise the hand of the Korean fighter. And you had two dynamics happening in 1988. Politics, because we were towards the back end of the Cold War era. So there was a lot of sympathy for the Eastern Bloc countries. And then South Korea was trying to establish themselves as a host country, as a who's who of sports, right? And so it happened throughout the Olympics. Todd Foster, another one, right? Todd Foster was forced to fight two times. Where were you when all this was happening? Were you in the stands?
About that. Yeah.
Were you in the stands, or were you in the back?
I was in the stands.
That's so interesting, right? Todd Foster,
right there.
Korean fighter, listens to the bell ring from the other ring.
Yeah.
Puts his hands down. Todd hits him, drops him. Then it became polemic, right?
Yeah.
They're like, no, the fight's got to go on. And it happened like an hour later, I think.
It was crazy.
A lot. The Roy Jones, obviously, the famous thing, same Olympics. Your decision, that was...
Roy Jones was
insane.
Was insane. I mean, that.
But yours
that
was kind of insane too, even though
mine was a lot more closer than Roy Jones' fight was. Roy Jones, totally. I mean, beat the guy. I mean, easy too.
Yes.
He totally beat him easy. I couldn't believe the decision.
And to this day, it never got corrected, right? He got awards and nominations and all this, but he never got that gold.
Yeah.
And for you, your fight, I remember the first round, I remember thinking, and this is from the viewpoint of a 6-year-old, and I'm like, oh my God, the other guy was so elusive. The second round comes in, and you took it to him, and you started double timing him, and it disrupted his flow.
Yeah.
And so I remember when the fight was coming to an end, they're commenting about the accumulation. The punches landed, accumulate from one round to the next. When the fight is over, you outlanded them by 10 punches, 49-39, and threw about 14 punches less, higher percentage. I was like, dead giveaway, Michael got it.
Yeah.
And then the decision, and then I think it was like a 5-0. And it was wild to me.
It was 5-0.
It was wild. Yeah. That was one of the wildest things to me. And that's why Roy Jones took a lot of that attention back then, but yours was also very polemic with Christoph, I believe was his name, Marinov, right? And then because he was a defending champ. So that was very interesting. Then we go back to your pros. One of the first fighters, if not the first, that had every single one of your pro fights televised from your opening debut all the way to the end.
Yeah.
After you, we saw the same thing with Oscar De La Hoya. You paved the way. You took the torch from Paul Gonzalez and took off with it. And many fighters have come behind that, and many promoters that have utilized your format, your blueprint to push their fighters. And you laid the way. How was that for you, getting your pro debut on the undercard of your hero, or whom you would mention, Roberto Duran, as one of your heroes?
That was great. I was overexcited. I was just excited. I was like,
nerves
before the fight. I wasn't like nervous or anything. I was just excited. I said, man, I'm fighting under his card. After just looking up to him, I couldn't believe it.
There's the old adage of that quote that says, never meet your heroes because you may be disappointed. I could attest to it. Here I am sitting with you, and we've just proved that wrong.
Yes.
Thanks to you, thanks to Ms. Laura, right, opening the doors to us, making this happen. How was that meeting for you, meeting your hero? Did it disappoint?
Never disappointed. I was just glad, happy to be there, happy to be under his card, and my first pro debut, and I was just excited. And like I said, I always keep calm. Once I step in the ring, that's it. Then there's a different Michael.
Then it's business.
Yep.
I recall an old interview of yours where you mentioned your mom used to tease you about Roberto Duran.
Yeah.
And tell you, oh, if I ever see him, I'm gonna run off with him. And
Yeah.
that stuff. And did your mom get to meet him that night?
Yeah.
The opening debut?
No, I don't think, was it that night? I don't think it was that night. It was some other night. It was like, I can't remember where it was, but she got to meet him.
That must have been a funny reaction, right? It must have been a funny interaction.
Well,
How was it?
For her, it was.
Yeah. For you?
For her, it was. It didn't bother me. I was glad that she was real happy. He hugged her. He really, he just was like any other person, and that's how he is. He's real. He's always joking around. That guy.
You've maintained a great relationship with him, and
Yeah.
it became a great friendship, right?
Yes.
To this day, you still keep in touch with Roberto?
Yeah, once in a while.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. You promise made, promise kept. The story, and we were speaking off mic a little bit, and this is a story that's been long told. Your father pulls you up years later. You don't remember that you made the promise at the age of 6 that you're going to become a world champion. He reminds you of it, and you were fully driven from amateurs all the way until the Kitty Kasem fight, and you become world champion. How was that feeling? How was that emotion with you and your father?
That was a great feeling.
Job done.
But yeah, and see, I never my father had told me that story, that what I said in my first amateur fight, right before my first amateur fight. He told me that story, and I don't remember it at all. I think he was giving me confidence.
You internalized it.
Yeah.
And then you made it happen. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like the night after, or after the victory with Kitty Kasem when you show him the title? What was that conversation like with you and your dad?
My dad was quiet. He was quiet just like me, but he was very proud. I could tell. We gave each other a hug and said, "Man, we did it. That's it. We did it."
That's
we
awesome.
were very happy.
Did he come up with any other stories? He's like, you also told me you were gonna do this. You're like, dang, I gotta go do this now.
He was too excited.
Yeah,
he
that's
was
awesome.
real excited.
Out of all the championships that you ended up acquiring throughout your career, which one was the most meaningful for you?
Well, there's a few. I say the first one with Kitty Kasem, because that's when I became world champion. The Chikita Gonzalez, the unification fight, and my last fight against Jorge Arce.
To this day, they mention as that fight as the greatest retirement in boxing history.
Cool.
That's great, right? What a way to go out.
That's the way to go out.
That's the way to go out.
That's the way
We
to
go back from Kitty Kasem. You mentioned in multiple interviews that to date you feel that he was the hardest puncher that you ever stepped into the ring against. Do you still stand by that? Was he the hardest puncher?
He was the hardest. His punches were different. Him and Chiquita hit the hardest, but Kitty Kasem's hurt. All his punches hurt. They were not like Chiquita was heavy-handed. He was not like where it stuns me all the time or bam, and it just that little stunning punch that Kitty Kasem always, every time, even his jab was powerful. I thought it was a right hand.
Was it like a concussive punch, like where you would lose?
No, I knew where what was happening, and I knew he never really wobbled me or nothing like that. It was just pure heart. I mean heart, hard as in like, he was a sharp puncher. When you're sharp like that, you punch hard, and that's the way his punches felt.
Would you say that's one of the first times that you faced real adversity in the ring, where you felt like this guy's probably going to take me out? Like, how do I overcome this? Because he kept coming at you, and then you kept going at him, and it kept dragging on into the later rounds. Eventually, you got him out.
I love the way the fight goes like that. Anytime I have a fight that's tough, I loved it.
What goes through your mind in the corners when you know you're getting hit hard, you're experiencing the punch, does any type of doubt set in? Does any type of, or is just more fire? Like I want more. I want to, because this is huge for young fighters, right? That don't. You're telling me earlier about fighters that quit the moment they get to spar, they get hit, and they're like, all right, this isn't for me.
Right.
You were already at the top echelon of the division, chasing that world title, and here's the adversity presenting itself with how hard this guy's hitting.
Well, it comes from the love. I'm telling you, it comes from the love of fighting. Once I got in there, there's nothing that could stop me. I said, there's no way. I don't care how hurt I get. I'm never going to get knocked out. I've said that from the beginning. I'll never get knocked out. And that was in my mind all the time. I could get hit as hard as any of them guys that hit real hard. There was not just Kid Case and Chiquita. There was other few of them that I don't remember.
Melchor Cobb Castro was another one that.
Oh, well, that fight, he was the lightest puncher I ever.
Oh, really? I would have thought you would have said otherwise. He was a slugger, wasn't he?
No.
It's wild
He was the lightest puncher.
Wow. There was another fighter in your career that you ended up facing twice, and you stopped them, I think, both times. That was Jorge Calzada early in your career after Kitty Kasem, and then the fight before Jorge Arce to close out your career, you faced him again, and you stopped him again.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that rivalry. How did it change from when you saw him early in your career to?
I don't even know how we ended up fighting twice. I really don't know anything about that. They just put him in there with me, and I said, okay, fighting him again. So I'm going to do the same thing.
The mental, that we've been talking a lot about the mental aspect and the mental fortitude that it takes to have that type of journey, like the one that you had. How much do the losses affect you? How hard was it to bounce back after the loss, especially the Chikita Gonzalez being so tight the second time, but after the first time, I recall him telling you not to run in the lead up to the fight.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, who do you think you're talking to? And then sure enough, car crash waiting to happen, you stop him. The second fight, a boxing fight, right? He stays away.
He stays away.
Where was this confidence out of don't run?
He was smart.
He was smart, yeah.
I give him credit for that. You know, he fought a good fight. The third fight too, he fought the same way. Well, he knew once we battled it out, he wasn't gonna outlast me.
So those two losses to Chiquita, did they take a lot out of you mentally or physically, or how hard was it for you to just bounce back and be like, whatever, it happened, I got decision losses, let's get back in?
I expect that, you know, I expected. I didn't go in there like I could win, or sometimes you think, what if I lose? I mean, you won't get any fighters that are gonna admit that. It's there.
Yeah.
Because I know I've been there before, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean,
there's fighters that lose and never come back.
Yeah, once they start thinking they can lose, that's what happens is they lose. So I was always thinking about winning, but there was something right behind there that, what if I lose?
Yeah,
You know,
like
what's going to happen?
You were a realist about it.
Yeah.
You understood that it could go either way.
Right.
And especially going to LA, where Chiquita had built most of his career, and then going to Mexico.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, this is going to be rough.
When I went to Mexico, I thought he was going to fight. I said, okay, nobody's going to like running over there. Nobody's going to like his boxing there. But he was smart. And I give that to him.
Something unique that happened in that trilogy fight, where the decision, even then, it was still a relatively competitive fight, and the decision took forever to be rendered, and people got frustrated throughout that fight, so much so that there was stuff thrown in the ring, and you recall that? And that was in Mexico.
Yeah, that was in Mexico.
That wasn't the way the fight was supposed to go. It was, people were expecting exactly what you were expecting.
He took a lot of bad publicity in that, after that fight.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he felt about it. But I was still happy. You know, I was not happy because I lost. It just, hey.
With your performance.
That's what he did, and he had a great performance, you know.
Yeah. You then faced Pastrana. What happened in the Pastrana fight? Because it was such a tight, contested fight, but something was changing. It was almost like a changing of the guard. You were already midway through your career. Something happened in that fight, and it might have been more mental aspect than physical.
I don't know what it went through. He was an awkward fighter.
Yeah.
He had an awkward style. But still, when I looked at the fight again and again, I won that fight.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to complain about it. So, I just come back and win the title again.
Yeah. And we talked about Robinson Cuesta, and you delivered on the payback on Robinson Cuesta. Then you face an old foe, an old amateur foe of yours, in Scotty Olsen.
Yes.
And that was a satisfying fight for you too, because you guys had a back and forth in the amateurs, right?
Yeah.
In the Pan Am Games, if I remember correctly.
I don't think, not the Pan Am Games, just the Olympics.
Just the
I fought him in
Olympics.
Canada, and shoot, we fought, 3 times. And I got robbed in Canada, of course. But he's always, ever since I beat him that 3rd time, all he was doing was asking for me, asking for Michael Carbajal, asking for, and finally, it should have happened a lot earlier than it did. And I just knew, I'm gonna make him, he's gonna remember me for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And
that was such a satisfying fight.
Yeah, because I stopped him with the body shot too. So those are the best. When you stop someone with the body shot.
Yeah.
I love it.
Those are better than the head knockouts?
Only if you get them real devastating knockout, then I don't think so. But the body shot is loving.
To me, one of the best highlights has to be the Cuesta one. Obviously, you have so many highlights, but the fact that he basically knocked himself out on that one, right? He was already knocked out on his feet, still trying to respond, and then his body gave out.
Right after that 3rd round, the first knockdown, I didn't think he was going to get up, but he got up and went another 4 rounds. And, hey, he hung in there.
Yeah, he did.
I was just totally just breaking him down with them body shots after that 3rd round. I said, I go to the body now. So he's lasting, he's lasting. So I start going to the body. And that 7th round, I knock him out. So that was satisfying, only because of all the shit he was talking at the beginning of the fight and putting his thumbs down to my mom. I knew I was going to punish him.
I think there was a little commentary on his behalf as well because of your nickname, Manitas de Piedra, and him being Panamanian. It was almost like he was calling you like a fake, I guess, in a way, right? Yeah. Like, you're not the real one. Like, I'm going to show you, and as an undefeated fighter, you just trampled over him.
He probably thought like that. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But
that was so interesting.
Right on the money, so I think that's what it was.
I've heard you say in the past that you were at your absolute best in the Kitty Kasem fight. If that was your absolute best, what version of Michael did we see with Chiquita and every other title victory that you had?
Well, if you look at the Kitty Kasem fight, all my punches were just landing. They were sharp, really sharp. The way that I was moving, the way that I did the little side steps inside, nobody sees those. And if you look at the tape, now that I told you, you'll probably
I'm gonna look for it.
Look for it, and then you know what I'm talking about. So
everything was just crisp, efficient, accurate.
Everything was. That's why I say that was my best performance.
When we get to the end of your career, and we mentioned it, that it's still considered the greatest retirement, the greatest boxing farewell in boxing history, and that was your victory over Jorge Arce, a 21-year-old versus a 31-year-old. You were already on the verge of pushing 32, I think.
Yes.
This is a young 21-year-old, and it's almost like they're feeding you to his resume.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to get an old champion, build up his resume, he's going to build on this.
That's it.
And then as a champion, you end up pulling the odds, you pull the carpet from everybody from under their feet. And it was one of the most amazing victories because you have both eyes bleeding, and the commentators at one point, they see you get up, enter the bell, and they say, he's got both eyes injured, but there's no question that his heart is fully intact.
Yeah.
And you went in and kept taking it to him, and you drop him in the 6th.
Yeah.
And continue pushing forward. The 7th is usually, I believe the 7th is when the cuts got a little bit worse, and he started landing. It's almost like he felt that second wind.
Yeah,
and then you
He
bring
was
him to.
outpointing me. I knew he was outpointing me. And I said, man, I got to knock him out. If I don't knock him out, I'm going to lose this fight. I knew I was getting outpointed. And,
How did you feel in that fight? Overall, how did you know the version of Michael Carbajal that was in the ring with Jorge Arce, knowing that that's what they considered an old lion versus a young lion, is how a lot of people have phrased that fight. How did you feel? Did you know you're like, let's pull this out and I'm calling it?
No, I
because
knew
your
what
body's
they
not
were.
responding. A lot of punches that you saw in front of you, a lot of openings, but it's almost like your body wouldn't respond or you wouldn't react to it. Did you realize that as the fight was going on?
I thought you were talking about
Like
before.
instincts and your reactionary gap and so forth?
Yeah, after the knockdown, I knew I could catch him, but it was tough. It was tough catching him because he was quicker. He was young. He was a young kid and 21 years old, world champion. I loved it, and because I knew before the fight that they were using me, or they said we're going to use him. And I said, nope, it's not going to happen.
Not on my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and luckily I knocked him out because I would have lost the fight because I was being outpointed.
You disrupted the plans because we see it happen a lot, right? They bring in, we saw it with Marco Antonio Barrera when they threw him against Amir Khan.
Yeah.
And we saw Nassim versus Marco Antonio Barrera. That happened. We've seen it a lot throughout history. Have you ever received, well, let me ask you this before we get into the what if scenarios that have been huge for your career because of so many big names that were around at that time. Let's go back to this one real quick, the old lion versus the young lion. That Michael Carbajal with that much experience, the Michael Carbajal that faced Jorge Arce, how would he have fared out with the Kitty Kasem Michael Carbajal, the young Michael Carbajal, old lion versus young lion?
You know what?
In your perspective.
Wow, that's way different fight. Totally different fight. I would have knocked him out this, but at the same time I knocked him down on the real fight. So
you get the dynamic, right? Like the experience that you had when you faced Kitty Kasem versus the true and tried multiple division champion version of you that faced Jorge Arce.
Yeah,
How would those two Michael Carbajals be against one another?
Both will win. It's a double knockout.
Double knockout.
No, I don't know. You know, the beginning, of course, and my beginning stages of my career is a lot better than the late stages. So the beginning stages, of course, he would beat the Michael Carbajal of the late stage.
That's so interesting. It's such an interesting dynamic that I've always played in my head because the experience that you had, the fact that you knew how to cut the ring so well, how to eliminate their weapons, how to use their weapons like you did with Arce, the young, hungry 21-year-old, and you're using his weapons against him. You're waiting for those openings, and eventually it paid off, right? You found the opening, you stop them.
That's right.
So that's beautiful. Let's move into the fanfare because this is the what-if scenarios that existed so much throughout your career after you retired, even during your career. The what-if scenario, the chess match that everybody would call was you versus Finito Lopez, Ricardo Finito Lopez, a fight that everybody said, this is going to be the ideal dream chess match.
Right.
And I believe, if I recall correctly, there was going to be negotiations for that fight, but it never materialized, obviously.
It just never happened. I don't know why. What I always say, he wanted that zero. He wanted that zero. He knew it was going to be, oh man, this would be one loss that I don't even want to try. You know, because at the beginning stage, nobody really said anything about Finito. I mean, not till the later stage of my career, like the middle, not even the middle of my career.
Must have been like mid-90s? You think, or was it later 90s already that it came up?
It was already late 90s. But it was probably like 95 or somewhere around there. They started mentioning it. But once I retired and moved up weight, Once I retired, he moved up weight. Once I was gone, he
Because he was at 105, you were at 108.
108. And
Yeah.
that's it. Man, plus, when I was the money man at the weight class, at my weight class. And there's not 3 pounds of gain. And I always figured, why doesn't he come up? I mean, he's going to make way more money than he's ever going to make. And a lot of fighters do that, you know.
Yeah.
If I'm going to make more money, I'm going up. Plus, if I can beat him, I'll do that. So that beating part, I don't think he had confidence in.
And that's always one of those fights that people will mention, and they always say, well, Finito's boxing was this. But we already knew what you brought to the table, and everybody would say it. The commentators, Al Bernstein and Jim Lampley, everybody would say he's one punch away from switching the entire fight. And Michael Carbajal, right? He's one punch away. So you could be the most beautiful boxer. He's just one punch away from switching the whole thing. And then we go back to the Mike Tyson adage, right? Of everybody has a plan A until they get hit in the face, right?
Right.
And so that's the dynamic that nobody sees. Everybody sees one aspect of it. So we move on from that one. That's one that they would always throw out. I remember like late 90s, around that time, Rosendo Alvarez, who ties with them, has that draw with him. Yeah. I remember that the talk was that maybe Michael would face Rosendo Alvarez to finally get the WBA title, and that would be the lead-in to that fight. Was that ever anything that came into talks?
No.
And it was later 90s also.
It's the Chikita fight. You know, why don't everybody mention, well, right after the Chikita fight, you have Ricardo Lopez. All right? And they never mentioned that right after the Chikita fight. I don't know why. Because nobody knew who Ricardo Lopez was. Yep. At that time.
And he was fighting abroad a lot too, right? Yeah. He made a big name for himself in Japan, fighting abroad instead of fighting here, and you were here.
Yeah.
So another one that came up, and this is because you guys all had similar upbringings. You're going to recognize these names. You guys were, all three of you, neither one of you were built industrial with the big backing and the big gyms. You guys were homegrown, grassroots, working man fighter. And it was you, Danny Romero, Johnny Tapia. And so a lot of fans through forums and articles throughout the years, they said the mega fight, the super fight would have been a super flyweight fight between Michael Carbajal and Johnny Tapia. Would have been the dream fight. One was the chess match with Finito. This would have been the fans' dream fight. Was that ever anything in fruition? Because I know you guys faced off against one another in the amateurs, right? You and Tapia?
Me and Tapia. Yeah.
Was that ever anything? Because were you guys amicable during that era? Or
no, it was just an amateur fight. It was just a tournament in New Mexico that came out. It was a close fight, but I knew they were going to give it to him. I mean, but it was close.
Did you ever hear these talks as your career was progressing, or is just fan frenzy that came up afterwards? I
was friends with both of them. You know, we got along when we see each other. Danny Romero came and helped me. He is a sparring partner, and he helped me a whole lot. And you know, so Johnny Tapia, at the beginning, it was Johnny Tapia asking for Michael Carbajal. Danny Romero. See, this how it happened. One time me and Johnny Tapia were talking, and I told him, I hear all this stuff that you wanted to fight me. And he goes, nah, Michael, man, that ain't true. It's Danny Romero that's asking for you. And I already knew he was lying because I talked to Danny. I always talked to Danny Romero because of the fact that he was sparring with me. So we were friends. And
that would have been the third one that I was going to bring up to you. What a lot of people have named the clash of the Southwest would have been between Danny Romero and Michael Carbajal. And it's so interesting the fact that you guys had sparring sessions together, and he helped you prepare for any specific fight, any big fight, or he would just show up to spar with you to train.
He was here for, I can't remember what fight he was here for. Shoot, it's been so long. But he was here for about 3-4 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, he was here for my old training camp. And
was he as hard a hitter as it seemed?
Yeah, he was a hard hitter, and plus he had skills also.
A lot of skills, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very fluid fighter, and he was very confrontational, right? Very aggressive style fighter versus Tapia was more elusive, more footwork.
Yeah, he was. Tapia was the same way. You know, he was a good boxer like that, and he had some power. But Danny Romero had like real power. I mean, totally a whole different style of power.
Explain to me the differences from, we just talked about Kitty Kasem's type power, Chiquita's heavy-handed power, Danny Romero. What was the difference in the power? Because these are, it almost seems like there's three different versions of, or three different types of punch that each one of these fighters possessed.
When you're nice and sharp, and you throw nice sharp punches, those are the hardest. Those you feel. You can feel those. Like the heavy-handed fighters, you can't feel every punch that he hits you with. The sharp fighters, those are the ones you feel, and those are hard. Those are hard. We just go through it, you know, and that's the difference between a hard puncher and a sharp puncher.
There's one last one I want to throw at you because this one was really interesting to me, and it's another a fellow International Boxing Hall of Famer. And I came across this interview that this fighter gave 2 years ago, or maybe just about 2-3 years ago. And he mentions that the reason he gets into the International Hall of Fame is not because of his resume, but because of the people that avoided him. And he gives a list of names. You might know who I'm talking about. He gives the names and he mentions your name, Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero, and he says that, and Chikita Gonzalez, that they all stayed away from him.
Who is that?
And this is Mark Johnson, Too Sharp.
No.
And he makes the claim that with Danny Romero relinquished the title when he was his #1 contender, Johnny Tapia relinquished the title to avoid fighting him. And he explains, or he expresses this conversation that he approaches you before the Chiquita fight and expressed to you the interest of fighting the winner of you or Chiquita. And if he won, he didn't care about the titles. He would give them back to whomever he defeated. He just wanted the challenge. Is there any validity to these stories?
That's not even true. Mark Johnson wasn't even mentioned when me, Tapia, and Danny Romero around. There was no Mark Johnson. No one knew where Mark Johnson was. So that story he told you is crazy.
So it wasn't my interview. It's an interview that I came across, and but it's so interesting because to mention that you get into the Hall of Fame not because of the body of work, but because of the people that stayed away from him, to his claim, that's a huge claim. Right. And those are huge names that he mentioned. So, and that was very interesting to touch on that with you, to see where you guys were at that time as you guys are competing. Was that even conversations? Or is anybody approaching you with that?
Nobody knew who Mark Johnson was. No one. Nobody knew who Mark Johnson was.
To date, you've been inducted into the Arizona Sports Hall of Fame, the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame, but the most important, the International Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota. What does it feel like to be enshrined with the very best that have competed?
I still choke up on that. I mean, it's unbelievable. I never thought or never said, you know, I want to make the Boxing Hall of Fame. They had called me and they told me, I just started crying. I still get choked up.
When they called you and announced and told you we're about to induct you into the Hall of Fame, you still remember that phone call?
Oh yeah, I remember it.
Was it a letter that they sent you, or was it a phone call?
It was a phone call.
Wow.
It was a phone call. I got choked up just as I did now. I mean, it's unbelievable. When I look throughout my career, I get choked up. I still get choked up. All the things that I've done, you know, and you know, everybody says I paved the way. That I love that. You know, I'm just like, man, I would never thought I did all this beforehand. All I want to do is be a world champion. And
you broke so many molds from Fighter of the Year on Ring Magazine, from a lighter weight division. It was always a heavier weight divisions featured. 1993 year featured on there in Ring Magazine. From the biggest purse for the lighter weights, you ended up opening a whole field for the lighter weight divisions, paving the way for who we mentioned earlier in the interview, Oscar De La Hoya. And it's almost like he had a very similar story to yours, coming from a small town, East Los Angeles, and the promise to the mom for the gold medal and so forth. And all these stories that continue to go, the mold almost seems like it was taken from Michael Carvajal's story and applied in different directions to promote these fighters. You paved the way. It was like you were opening doors, and then the flood of fighters came behind you.
Yeah.
And then the way you closed out your career, I can't think of anybody else that has done it that way. Either they pushed too hard or pushed too much longer into their career when they shouldn't be. It was perfect timing by your end.
That happens all the time. Yeah. I knew once, like my dad told me that story. Said I said that I'm become world champion, I'm a retired world champion. And at 6 years old, saying that's crazy. I'm like, there's no way I said that. There's no damn way. And when he told me that, and I remember that, I just forgot all about it till somebody had interviewed me about it and what it was about and this and that. Because my father had told me later that I said that story when I was 6, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Now that I look back at it, it's the boxing that I've watched all throughout when I was little. Just like you said, when you're 6 years old, you're watching fights. And I was watching fights all the time, every time, always with my father. And he always used to teach me all the basics.
When you won the title against Jorge Arce, did you ever take a chance to speak to your dad? I know it was your late father. He passed away in the mid-90s, early 90s. Did you ever get a chance to speak to your dad and have that peace of mind and just that quiet conversation with him and tell him mission accomplished? I did it. I got the title. You got to witness my first title. Now I get to retire with the title.
No, we never mentioned it. It just went all about like that. I mean, I never thought that I was gonna retire, I know when I first retired, when I retired after the Matlala fight, I said, if I can't beat this guy, that's it.
The shortest fighter in history, right?
Yeah, yep. He was tough. He was tough, though. And God bless him, he passed away.
Wow.
But he was a little tough fighter, If I would have fought and boxed on the outside, it would have been a whole lot easier. But after that, I retired, and I said, man, I can't do this. I waited about a year. Then I said, I got to come back and win a world title. I got to come back and win a world title. And I came back, and 3 fights in, they offered me a world title, and that was against Jorge Arce. And that's when I knew this guy's young. They're up to something. They're using my name to make him a better overall.
Not happening today.
No, it didn't happen.
You didn't allow it.
No.
That's beautiful. And the beautiful thing about this is that I think we could close this chapter, this conversation on this note, going back to the chapter's not done or the story's not done. One chapter's done, your professional career, but the story's not done because you still have aspirations of hopefully leading a young fighter to those championship ranks and those championship reigns. So the story continues. It's fair to say, right?
Right. I'm still here at the gym, working with all the fighters, all the young ones, even younger ones that I say, you know what, they're a little bit too young. Everybody wants to bring their 6, 7-year-olds. They start competing at 8 years old. I'll take them. Even at 8 years old, you really don't. They still want to play around a lot, so it's hard. But I take them anyways, and because I got that patience, So if I get the chance, while I do have the chance, I got to keep working on it. And one kid's going to come in here one day, and it's going to have it all. I could feel it. You get so many of them. I get so many of them coming through. I said, one of these kids are going to make it. One of them are going to make it.
What's the one message that you want to send to the young aspiring boxers? And because we've touched on a lot, right? The mental aspect, the physical abilities, the lack of discipline. What's the one message that you would like to send to the young boxers or the young athletes that would like to partake in the sport, and the young athletes that are in the sport that are thinking about dropping out? What would you tell them? as Coach Michael Carbajal now, how would you reel him in and tell him like, hey, you got to stick the grind? Or
you got to be dedicated. You got to be determined, and you got to have that desire. You have to love this sport. You just can't come in here and think that you're going to be famous and make a lot of money. That you're going to have to work really hard for. So I tell all of them that. That's the first thing I tell them. Don't think you're going to come here and get all the money and be famous, because that's the last thing that's going to happen. If you want to do that, you're not going to make it.
It's the last thing that should be on their mind.
Yep, it's the last thing.
It's the wrong focus.
Right.
What a pleasure it's been. Thank you so much once again for opening the doors. This is a dream come true. And like I said, the old adage has been proven wrong of don't meet your heroes because you'll be let down. We just proved that wrong, and you made it happen. Thank you so much.
Well,
I would have never imagined having an opportunity to interview you from the young boy sitting in front of that wooden box TV watching you in the Olympics.
Yeah,
it's wild, right? This is wild.
I get fans like that, and that really excites me. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to see you cornering somebody and leading them all the way to the top. And if that happens, I hope you'll have me back, because I want to meet that fighter.
Always.
And I want to meet who's enduring the Manita de Piedra style.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, champ.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you
too.
again.
Have a great day.